ones. We're happy to have you with us. No. So welcome, dear ones. We'll begin just after 7, so we can meditate for a minute or two. Let's begin this evening now with a prayer together. Please pray with me. Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
beloved friend God,
beloved friend God,
great masters
great masters
of self-realization, Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Swami Sri Yukteswarji,
Swami Sri Yukteswarji,
beloved Guru,
beloved Guru,
Paramhansa Yoganandaji,
Paramhansa Yoganandaji,
all saints and sages
all saints and sages
of all times
of all times
and all traditions.
and all traditions,
Lovingly we bow at thy feet.
lovingly we bow at thy feet.
We invoke your presence
We invoke your presence
as we sing your name
as we sing your name
and open our hearts
and open our hearts
in meditation
in meditation
and devotion.
and devotion.
We are thine.
We are thine.
Receive us.
Receive us.
Om.
Om.
Peace.
Peace.
Amen. Happy Christmas, everyone, although it's still technically a week away. 1 week from today, in fact. So a week from tonight, we will not have a normal Kirtan because of Christmas Day. And so this is kind of the final of the Christmas satsangs or Christmas Kirtans in the Advent season. But today I'd like to just suggest that we really dive into the spirit of Christ and Christmas and just feel the blessings of the season and feel the blessings of all the masters, because Christ is present in all the masters. In the West, we associate the word Christ with Jesus, almost like it's his last name. But Christ is a consciousness that pervades the entire universe, not just this little mud ball of a planet, is the colorful way Swamiji used to describe this place, but all through space, all through infinity. And that infinity is infinitely vast, but it's also infinitely personal when we tune into it at that level and from that standpoint. So call on Christ every week on Sunday when we share the Festival of Light. We speak of and invite people to tune into this call of love that went up from earth and you responded. It's addressed directly to God. A ray of your light flashed out from the heart of infinity, burst downward through night skies of consciousness, and was born on earth for the redemption of mankind in human form. And then he goes on, and of course that describes perfectly the birth of Christ. But he goes on to say, many times has that light descended, drawn to earth by the call of aspiring love. God chooses, how does it go?
Your
Your
chosen
chosen
people have
people
always been those of every race and nation who with deep love chose thee.
So it's not, specific to any particular tradition or any particular country or any particular anything. It's just a question of our hearts. So this evening, as we chant, let's exercise that call of love that goes up from earth, because we can think of Christ's birth in Bethlehem 2,000 years ago, and it can seem far, far away. I mean, yes, Bethlehem is on the other side of the planet. 2,000 years ago is longer than last weekend. And, it seems like, oh, that's just far, far from here. But Christ's birth is now. This is Christmas night, even though on the calendar it comes a week from tonight. So feel that call coming out from your own heart, because all of us sharing this evening together are sharing it in that call, in that yearning for the divine. And so let's use our time together to really offer that lovingly. And we'll chant, and there will be little pauses between the chants that give us a chance to go even deeper in the spirit of the chant, whatever the chant was. And just take that moment. We'll have a little meditation. We'll share a few stories, and just allow the Spirit of God and Christ to come into your heart and into your mind in this time together, but also feel that to whatever extent, holidays are wonderful times. They're also noted for being sort of stressful times. People are busy. There's all sorts of things going on. And then now we've got this pandemic on top of it, which throws even other curves into it, because now we're not able to be as together with people, with family and friends as we have typically been used to being. So now we're a little more alone. But the call to God goes through. It's not like the cell phone tower loses its signal or the phones go offline or something. I mean, you can make that call anytime, anywhere. So let's make that call through the chanting, through the silence that sort of supports the chants in between, and through the meditation that we have. Just feel God's grace and God's blessing here this evening, here being wherever you are, wherever your heart is, whatever your own heart is calling for. Let that be the operative message of this evening, and let's share that blessing together. So we'll chant together, and we'll begin with, I am the bubble, make me the sea. And just feel that we are, all of us, swimming in the ocean of the divine, dancing in the waves of bliss and consciousness together with Divine Mother.
And by the way, we will have a Christmas night program as well as a Christmas takeout banquet during the day that you can sign up for, with a Zoom banquet with all your friends and all of that. So look in the newsletter. There's a full day of activities on Christmas Day.
Thou and I never apart. Thou and I never apart. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh make me the sea. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. So do I, so do I. Thou and I never apart. Thou and I never apart. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh make me the sea. Let the sea dissolve in the sea. Let the sea dissolve in the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. So thou my God, so thou my God. Thou and I never apart. Thou and I never apart. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh make me the sea. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. So thou my God, so thou my God. Thou and I never apart. Thou and I never apart. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh make me the sea. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. Oh my God, I am the bubble, make me the sea. So do thou my God, so do thou my God. Thou and I never apart. Thou and I never apart. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. Wave of the sea dissolved in the sea. I am the bubble, make me 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 the sea. So do I am the bubble, make me the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. So This next chant is, I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. Is this thing falling down again?
I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. 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 I want only thee, Lord. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, I want to be I want to be I want to be I want only thee, Lord, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, I want only thee, Lord, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, I want only thee, Lord, I want only thee, Lord, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, only I want only thee, Lord, I want only thee, Lord, only I want only
In the spirit of Christmas, let's sing Vieni presto, Jesu. Come to me, Jesus. Fill me with thy light. Fill me with thy love. Fill me with thy joy.
Vieni presto Gesù, 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 vieni presto Gesù. Jesus, fill me with thy love. Jesus, fill me with thy love. Come to me, Jesus, fill me with thy love. Come to me, Jesus, fill me with thy love. Come to me, Jesus, fill me with thy love. Come to me, Jesus, fill me with thy love. Vieni presto Gesù, 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 Come to me, Jesus, my Lord. Come to me, Jesus, my Lord. Come to me, Jesus, my Lord. Come to me, Jesus, many blessings.
Let's meditate together now for a few minutes. after we finish the stories. Okay. So are you ready? I can't get it to do anything.
All right, I'm coming around. Oh, wait. Just let me do the camera, okay?
All right. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So I'm going to share a few stories related to Christmas at Ananda, and I need you to flip that thing so I can see it for a second and make sure it's okay. So this goes back to my first year or two at Ananda, and I was, in particular, the first story goes back to my very first Christmas at Ananda, which was 1979, and I was young. I was wet behind the ears, you might say, and what I didn't know about all-day meditations could have filled up a library, I think. So I was nervous, shall we say, about the prospect, and I made a number of sort of ill-considered decisions as in my preparation for this meditation. I had this notion, I don't know, I suppose this must have come from other lifetimes, but I think I must have been an ascetic in other lifetimes to some degree, at least, because I had this notion that somehow the meditation would be better if I fasted the whole day and if I got myself up to the meditation retreat where the meditation was taking place, which was about a 5-mile walk. And so, those of you who have ever fasted in any flavor, in any manner of doing so, may know that there's a thing that happens where, especially if you're fasting on water alone, water only fasting, your blood sugar sort of crashes by mid-morning or late morning, and your body temperature changes. I mean, it's a whole purification process that happens. And so I decided, I had taken this commitment in my mind that this was going to be a good idea to do. And I hiked up to the meditation retreat. I was in good shape, a 5-mile hike before a meditation was not a big deal, but doing it with nothing to eat and then 8 hours of meditation, that was not a good idea. And Swamiji had this way of wanting fresh air in that temple. And it was kind of a thing where you sort of had to figure out, where did you want to be? Because, inevitably there are a few people whose personal thermostats run hot, and they're happy to be right by the windows that Swamiji wanted open. And so, he'd say, open the windows, and let's get some air in here, because I mean, after all, if you're this was the temple dome at the meditation retreat, which is the present temple is in the same place as that dome was. That particular dome fell in, collapsed, some 15 years later or something. But anyway, at the time, that was a geodesic dome temple, and you get 100 people in there or whatever it was. I mean, it was packed to the walls, pretty full. It gets a little stuffy and whatever. He wanted the air to move through there. But anyway, so I had committed myself to sitting on the floor the entire day and, only having water. And I got cold, like just like down into your bones kind of cold, the kind of cold that's fasting, doesn't help. I mean, it's like fasting lowers your body temperature anyway. And so, my rear end hurt. And it was, let's just say it was a challenging meditation that particular day because, the room is quiet. Everybody's trying to not move because if you move, it disturbs everybody else. And, you got 100 people in the room or 80, whatever it was, a lot of people in the room, it can start to feel like a bus station in there. And Swamiji had, I'm pretty sure it was this year, the 1979 year. There were a lot of people at Ananda and a lot of people present for this all-day meditation, but he had decided to separate. And so the more experienced meditators were in the common dome, and then the less experienced, of which I had no justifiable reason to think that I qualified for the more experienced crowd. So, I was in with the newbies in the meditation temple. Anyway, and he divided time between both, but he spent more time with the experienced ones because the experienced ones could sit still and the new ones could not so well. And it sort of annoyed him a little bit that we were wiggling and uncomfortable and etc. But anyway, I survived, and it wasn't my best meditation, but there was a sweetness to the day in spite of my ill-considered fasting and hiking up. I must have gotten a ride back because I would have been miserable walking back home. And I don't remember specifically if it snowed that day. I know that, in the numerous years that we had meditations at the meditation retreat, before the Expanding Light Temple became the kind of de facto community temple in the mid 1980s, often it did snow on that day. Often December was a very snowy month, particularly at the meditation retreat. So, it was cold outside, made more, and then inside more so by the fact that the windows were open all day long. The heat, yes, the wood stove was going, and, there wasn't like it was completely without heat. But so anyway, that was one little tidbit that happened. But I'll just share two other little things. The second one was another all-day meditation. This was in about 1987. And so I had, by this time I was, I wouldn't say I was an old hand at it, but I mean, I kind of knew the drill a little bit. And this particular year, by this time, the Expanding Light Temple was now the place where the community meditations were held for this kind of function, this kind of occasion. And so I was present, and it was really packed. It was really jammed to the walls. And so I learned later on to get there early enough to get a chair along the wall, like out to the edge. But in this particular year, I was right in the middle of a line of a row of chairs that had to be it felt like it was at least 15 wide, because I was in the middle of it. You'd sort of think of yourself. Remember the airline configurations where they would have 5 in the middle and 2 or 3 on the sides. I remember sitting in that middle seat. So not only is there one person, there's actually 2 people between you and the aisle in either direction. Well, in this case, it felt like there must have been 10 on either side. I don't think there really were. It's just the way I remember it. But I remember this little cough started going up from my chest to my throat, and this little tickle that was just inexorably turning into a cough. And I did everything in my power to try to not cough. I mean, I was perspiring. I was trying so hard not to cough. And finally, I just couldn't help it. So I sort of stifled a cough, and then I realized there's just no help for it. I'm going to have to leave this meditation, because that was the protocol. That is the protocol in a group meditation. If you're going to start coughing your brains out, and God knows in the days of COVID, where you could infect an entire room full of people, all the more so. But I mean, even in those days, partly for the noise, and yes, partly for the fact that you don't want to just broadcast your germs everywhere, there was always a sick room, or the dining room adjacent to the temple is where everybody who had sniffles or whatever would congregate. Well, in this particular year, there was a back office that now I believe it's an office. Then it was kind of a library, and it was empty, but it was rigged up with a TV set that communicated with the temple. So you could still see what was happening in there. And you could hear, if Swamiji had a chanting break, you could hear the chanting and so on. And partway through this meditation, or maybe at the end of a meditation, but he just spontaneously started talking. But the way that he spoke was so unlike anything I had ever heard. And now, again, I was still fairly new. I mean, 7, 8 years on the path. But I knew instantly that this was not something to be missed. And so I leaped up from in the back of the building in the dining area. It's a long way. I mean, it feels like it's about 100 yards to get into the temple from there. I beelined through the dining room and went in the back door and stood at the back of the temple. And Swamiji, for the first and only time, spoke from a message that Divine Mother was giving him. And he spoke now that I'm telling the story, I should have the exact quote of it. And I'm sure I could find it, but it would take more time than I can do. But I can paraphrase it. I remember in particular, he was saying, this is Divine Mother speaking through Swami, the first and only time that she ever did so, that he articulated to our whole community. She said, build your community. I found it very interesting that it was Swamiji saying your community, not, build my community or our community, build your community. But in the sense of building inner communion with me and with Divine Mother, building our inner communion. And I just thought, wow, what an amazing concept. And it just was flowing, and it was only a paragraph or two, only, 4, 5, 6 sentences, something like that. But, it was clearly he was being an instrument for Divine Mother to speak to us. It's so easy to get caught in the dramas of life, all the, ups and downs, all the scandals, all the, who's getting together with who's breaking up with who's having a baby, who's getting sick, who's losing a job, who's getting a job, whatever it may be. It's just endless stuff. Whose team won, whose team lost, all that business. And she was just saying, have inner communion with me. All the rest of it's drama. You leave this world, it all stays behind. It's all gone. Have inner communion with me. And that's the main event. And at the last little bit that I'll tell, I don't think it was that particular meditation, because I think in this meditation, again at the Expanding Light Temple, I was there for the entire meditation and I didn't cough. And it's the only time I ever had to leave a meditation. And I pretty much had to spend the rest of it in the sick room. I couldn't, that cough was unpredictable enough. And I wasn't going to go through, you're 45 minutes into a meditation and you have to get up and step over all these people to get to the aisle and zoom to the back before this cough just explodes out of you. I mean, it was not a nice feeling. But anyway, I remember this lovely meditation, and these meditations were still pretty challenging for me. But I remember at the end of it seeing one of our dear friends, and the look on her face was such, you cannot buy a look like that. You cannot sort of emote a look like that unless you've paid for it with your own devotion. And I couldn't begin to tell you what kind of deep experience she had had or what, but that look, just to see that look was so profoundly moving to me, that just, because all of us in those meditations would hit periods where it was like, wow, if I could just stay in that place. But then, of course, we'd lose it and have to work for it again. But anyway, this beautiful, wonderful. I mean, Christmas meant the 8-hour meditation. And I only ever missed 2 of them. A couple of years ago, I got sick and couldn't do it. And maybe it was last year. I don't remember now. 2 years ago. And, my twin sister got married right at Christmas one year in 1985. And so I had to go and miss that particular one. But otherwise, I had made every one since. And, different points of the world. I mean, I remember in India, all day meditate in Pune at our land that we got. You had to position yourself consciously because you could get a sunburn on Christmas Day if you sat in the sun. If the sun crept into where you were, it was a shelter. We were under a kind of a thatched roof outdoors, but you had to pay attention to where you sat anyway. So very different environments and climates around the world, but always a blessing, always a deep, deep blessing. So here, I'll fix the camera. You come.
Well, speaking of the all-day meditations that we have been through in these past many years, one of the most thrilling memories I have, and this particular thing happened, I don't know, many, many times. We would be sitting in that little geodesic dome temple that Dharmadas was talking about up at the seclusion retreat, the first property that Swami got as Ananda. And it would be so still in there. Oftentimes it would be snowing or had snowed in the past day or two. And so the dome would be covered in snow, making it even more pin drop silent. It's just absolutely exquisitely beautiful. Well, we would be chanting and meditating, and invariably it would be the deepest meditation after at least an hour of everyone being very, very silent. And suddenly, all that snow on the geodesic dome would drop. And it would be this roar of snow, big, heavy load of snow falling to the ground. And everyone would remain still, but you could just feel the Kundalini rising up just from the impact of that loud sound. It was a great memory. I love that. You couldn't ever know when that sound would happen, when that snow would drop, but it was just so incredibly joyful. The Christmas, the spiritual Christmas of the all-day meditation is a tradition that Yogananda started in the very earliest days of his time here in America, and a tradition that Swami loved and joyfully brought to all of us through Ananda. And that blessing and the beautiful memories that, as Dharmadas was talking about, they're very, very sweet. And for me, through the later years, Swami, starting, I guess, in the late 80s, maybe, or early 90s, mid 80s, yeah. He would have me and some of the other musicians help him lead the meditations. So there would be a guitar and a harmonium and just have it filled out a little bit more. And I remember one time him asking us to sit close by him, and I was sitting right next to him under the window that was open, completely open. And I sat under that window the entire meditation, and I froze. It was so cold that at the end of the day, I felt as though I might as well have just been sitting outside on a rock all day long and in the shade, not even in the sun. I would have been warmer if I'd been sitting in the sun than I was inside that temple. And playing the harmonium with frozen hands, it took me hours to warm up after that. But that sweetness of doing tapasya, trying to be still, trying to be awake and warm, even if you're very, very cold, all of that kind of tapasya is just part of the fun and part of what makes a good story later on. So all of you are invited to our all-day meditation this year, and it's on December 23rd. We will do it from our home temple and take the opportunity. We meditate for 8 hours. What's 8 hours? We normally work 8 hours a day or more, and we don't think anything of it. But can we dedicate 1 8-hour period to God? Let's do it. And be experimental. I remember one very memorable 8-hour meditation I had with Dharmadas in Gurgaon in India soon after we had helped Swami to start the work there. And I decided that I would do Hong Sa. And so for the entire 8 hours, I don't think I even got up, but I did Hong Sa as deeply and with as much concentration as I could, and stayed as absolutely still as I could. And it was quite an amazing experience because at the end of that day, as you get more and more still, your breath becomes more and more inward. You're not needing to breathe as deeply. And so the breath eventually, Master said, eventually breath becomes mind. And I don't claim that, but it was nearly imperceptible. I could see how it could become mind. But even with that minuscule breath, I could see clearly that the breath, as Master said, as Yogananda said, the breath is tied to the body. It's the chain that binds us. And even though it was just a slender thread of breath, it was made of titanium or something. It was so strong. And so it showed me graphically how important it is to transcend the breath. And that's why we have Kriya Yoga. That's why we have all the teachings that Yogananda gave us. So let us dive deep into this coming 8-hour meditation. And for new Kriya bonds, of course, you can do 108 Kriyas. This is a special moment. And all of us, let's dive deep in the spirit.
So why don't you lead your little...
So I have a little meditation now that we can do together. This is a poem of Paramhansa Yogananda, and one that is very dear to me, and it was to Swami as well. And I will ask Dharmadas to focus in on Master's picture as I read this. And if you can, I'll read it slowly. And if you can repeat the words, at least mentally, as I go through this poem, it will personalize it and make it, I hope, more meaningful for you. The poem is entitled, I Was Made for Thee. I was made for thee alone. I was made for dropping flowers of devotion gently at thy feet on the altar of the morning. My hands were made to serve thee willingly, to remain folded in adoration, waiting for thy coming. And when thou comest, to bathe thy feet with my tears. My voice was made to sing thy glory. My feet were made to seek thy temples everywhere. My eyes were made a chalice to hold thy burning love and the wisdom falling from thy nature's hands. My ears were made to catch the music of thy footsteps, echoing through the halls of space, and to hear thy divine melodies flowing through all heart tracks of devotion. My lips were made to breathe forth thy praises and thine intoxicating inspirations. My love was made to throw incandescent searchlight flames, to find thee hidden in the forest of my desires. My heart was made to respond to thy call alone. My soul was made to be the channel through which thy love might flow uninterruptedly into all thirsty souls.
I'll just add a thought or two to the all-day meditation subject before we chant a little more now. I don't want anybody to come away from our little stories with the feeling that this is just an impossible suffering all day long and there's no help for it. You just have to grit it out and deal with it, because it's incredible. Yes, it is. There is an element of, as Nirmala has used the word tapasya, there is an element of discipline involved for sure. But there's an element of discipline involved in, running a mile or working for 8 hours, which is a notable, likely comparison, as Nirmala shared. So, we know. I mean, I remember working 8 hours the first few times, and it was like, wow, that's a long time. Geez, that's intense. And now it's just like, 8 hours. What's the big deal? So, yes, to get to the point where an 8 hour meditation with breaks, with chanting, with the chance to move around, obviously, I mean, you're going to be in your own home. You can do what you need to do.
And there's lots of music in the afternoon.
Music and chanting in the afternoon, different readings or whatever. There's lots of variety involved in it. But there's just this blessing of Christ. It's just one of the holiest days of the year for us. And so, I also just want to echo and add to what Nirmala is saying, that, take the chance, because this day is very precious and very unusual. And it's a real opportunity to dive in. And
devotees all over the world will be doing it with you.
yeah, so, the meditations will begin in India and move to Europe with the changing time zones, and then move to the east coast of America and the middle of America and then the west coast of America. And, there's just, it's kind of like a rolling meditation all through the whole day around the world. And you can feel the grace. There's a special, special energy that day. So anyway, I just would encourage everyone to take that opportunity. So we'll chant a little more now. So we'll sing I awake in thy light. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy light. And also, I awake in thy joy and I awake in thy love. I awake in thy light, I awake in thy light. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy light. Awake in thy light, I awake in thy light. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy light. I awake in thy joy, I awake in thy joy. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy joy. I awake in thy joy. I awake in thy joy. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy joy. I awake in thy love. I awake in thy love. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy love. I awake in thy love. I awake in thy love. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy love. I awake in thy light. I awake in thy light. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy light. I awake in thy light. I awake in thy light. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy light. I awake in thy light. I awake in thy light. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy light. I awake in thy light. I awake in thy light. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy light. I awake in thy joy. I awake in thy joy. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy joy. I awake in thy joy. I awake in thy joy. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy joy. I awake in thy joy. I awake in thy joy. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy joy. I awake in thy joy. I awake in thy joy. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy joy. I awake in thy love. I awake in thy love. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy love. I awake in thy love. I awake in thy love. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy love. I awake in thy love. I awake in thy love. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy love. I awake in thy love. I awake in thy love. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy love. I awake in thy love. I awake in thy love. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy love. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy love. I am joyful, I am free. I awake in thy love.
Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, I am thine own. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, I am thine own. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine. Be thou mine, be thou mine, be thou mine. I am thine. Be thou mine, be thou mine, be thou mine. I am Oh God, beautiful, oh God. Oh God, beautiful, oh God. At thy feet, oh, I do. At thy feet, oh, I do. Oh God, beautiful, oh God. Oh God, beautiful, oh God. In the forest thou art. In the forest thou art, in the mountain thou art high, in the mountain thou art high, in the river thou art restless, in the river thou art restless, in the ocean thou art great, in the ocean thou art great. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, oh God, beautiful, oh God. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, oh God, beautiful, oh God. To the serviceful thou art seamless, to the serviceful thou art seamless, to the lover thou art love, to the lover thou art love, to the sorrowful thou art sympathy, to the sorrowful thou art sympathy, to the yogi thou art bliss, to the yogi thou art bliss. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, oh God, beautiful, oh God. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God. In the forest thou art, in the forest thou art, in the mountain thou art high, in the mountain thou art high, in the river thou art restless, in the river thou art restless, in the ocean thou art great, in the ocean thou art great. Oh God, beautiful, oh God. Oh God, beautiful, oh God. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. Oh God, beautiful, oh God. Oh God, beautiful, oh God. To the serviceful thou art seamless, to the serviceful thou art seamless, to the lover thou art love, to the lover thou art love, to the sorrowful thou art sympathy, to the sorrowful thou art sympathy, to the yogi thou art bliss, to the yogi thou art bliss. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God. At thy feet, oh God, at thy feet, oh I do. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God.
And we'll sing Yogananda's chant, "Deliver us from delusion" now, and feel as we chant this that we're calling to Christ, we're calling to the Guru in whatever form, even if you don't have a Guru, just calling to God in whatever form you feel drawn to deliver us all from this dream, from this delusion.
Think ye in thy heart, lotus feet of thou. Think ye in thy heart, lotus feet of thou. If you want to cross the ocean of illusion, if you want to cross the ocean of illusion, shaming the white lotus in purity, shaming the white lotus in purity, beyond all duality, Guru, image of Brahma, deliver us from delusion. Guru, image of Brahma, deliver us from delusion. Think ye in thy heart, lotus feet of thou. Think ye in thy heart, lotus feet of thou. If you want to cross the ocean of illusion, if you want to cross the ocean of illusion, shaming the white lotus in purity, shaming the white lotus in purity, beyond all duality, Guru, image of Brahma, deliver us from delusion. Guru, image of Brahma, deliver us from delusion. Think ye in thy heart, lotus feet of thou. Think ye in thy heart, lotus feet of thou. If you want to cross the ocean of illusion, if you want to cross the ocean of illusion, shaming the white lotus in purity, shaming the white lotus in purity, beyond all duality, Guru, image of Brahma, deliver us from delusion. Guru, image of Brahma, deliver us from delusion. Guru, image of Brahma, deliver us from delusion. Think ye lotus feet of thou. Think ye in thy heart, the sweeter. Think ye my heart, the sweeter.
Let's close now by chanting Om together, sending out waves of divine blessings. Feel these blessings flowing through your heart, your mind, your soul, your own voice. Chant this blessing into the world.
Let's remember that, as Yogananda said, even God and the angels celebrate Christmas for the good of all humanity. So let's remember we're not alone this Christmas. Even God and the angels are celebrating with us.
Jai Guru. God bless you all.